Here's another interesting function that is a return type function, and it is called type. And type has a required parameter called object, which you're going to give it something, usually a variable or a class or an object. And it will tell you what data type is in that variable, which is very useful, right? A variable type. So let's say I want to have a variable that says str name equals Bill. And we'll do int age equals that. There we go. Okay, so if I want to, I can do this. Now, type is, like I said, is going to return the type, the data type of what's in that variable. So, question, what is this program going to output when I run it? What's that? It's going to, remember, type will tell me it returns the data type of the data that's in that container. So what's the data type in that container? It's an integer, right? Because it's a number with no decimal. So when I run this program, what's it going to tell me? That's an excellent guess, but the answer is it's going to do nothing. Why? Because type is what kind of function? It's a return type. What do we have to do with a return type? We either have to eat the dinner or put it in a container, right? So there's nothing happening with that. It will, in fact, do what it's supposed to. It's going to take int age and it's going to return that it's the type of data that's in there is an integer. That's what it will say. But it will say it to the Python interpreter and nothing else will happen. So visually speaking, when I run this program, nothing is going to happen and it gives no errors because it's just doing what I told it to do, which is return the type of age. Now, if I nest this inside a print statement, a print function like that, and I run it again, then it will print the results of the type function. So the type function on int age printed out will give me this, int. It will tell me what type of data that is. Now, that's useful because there are certain things that you can do with some types of data, but not others. For example, if I wanted to add, let's see, str last name, we'll just go with that. So if I want to do this, print str name plus str last name. Okay. If I add first name and last name and print that out, what do you think it's going to do? Bill Smith without any spaces. Correct. Now, obviously, if I have int, let's say married equals 30. Okay, if I have int age minus int married, we know what that's going to do, right? What's that going to print? 20. So if I add two strings together, it does something called concatenation. All that means is it takes the two strings, smushes them together, prints them out. If I give it two numeric types, it does the math. It knows. Python's smart enough to do that. Now, what do you suppose I'm going to get if I do this? Any guesses? What's going to happen?
age. I mean, 50 name.
Okay, so 50 bill. So when I run this, I get an error. And this is part of the reason why it's good to be able to tell what's in a variable type, both because of the name, right? The name tells me right off the bat, but even if I'm not naming my variables correctly, or even if I have something called str name, I could still technically put a number in there. There's nothing stopping me from doing that, even by accident. But if I go and try to do math with a numeric type and a string, or a numeric type and a Boolean, or something like that, I'm going to get weird errors some of the time. So using type to check and see what type of variable that is, like if I want to add two numbers together, sometimes it's useful to check and make sure that those two variables are actually numbers before I try and add them together, because you don't want to have an error in your program. So that's a way you can do things. So that's the type function. Now you know three functions. You know print, which is a do something. You know input, which gathers input from the user, and type, which returns the data type of a variable or object that it's given. Okay, so there's the input function. Input takes only one parameter, the prompt. But here is a common point of confusion for users. They might do something like this and then use input and enter your name. This is a correct usage. The prompt should be considered or thought of as the question it's going to ask the user. Like, what's your name? What's your age? What's your favorite color? That's what the user sees before they type their answer. What the user types is what goes into name. And a lot of people will get confused, right? This is what works. It doesn't do anything with it. It just puts it into a variable, then the program ends there. But a lot of people get a little bit confused and think that they should do something like this. And in their mind, they're thinking that if I put Bill in there inside that input function, that what's going to happen is Bill is going to go into the container str name. But then they run their program and it does this. It says Bill. And they're like, I don't know how to respond to that. So very, very important thing to remember, and very common point of confusion. That's the only reason I'm emphasizing this, is what goes inside the prompt is the question that you're going to ask somebody. When they use your program, it's the question. It's what you're asking them for, is whether it's choose something from the menu, enter your name, enter a number, whatever. Question.
So it's like print hello world, except with more steps.
This is not really printing hello world. This is just asking for data from the user.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah. I mean, you can use whatever you get from this and you can insert that into a string. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you can do that for sure. But you need to make sure you capture it in a variable and make sure that what you put here is not what you want to be in the variable, but rather what you're asking the user. It's the prompt. Important distinction, because every semester somebody gets confused about that.